Welcome, everyone, to the Newvision Oldways Podcast, a greatly ambitious journey of discovery where we can all learn to live better, mentally healthier, and more fulfilling lives. If you're just discovering us, feel free to go back and take the journey from the beginning. And if you're already a Newvision Oldways fan, welcome back and enjoy Season 4. And now, here is your host, Tony Marinaccio.
You are listening to Newvision Oldways, the podcast that explores timeless wisdom for the modern mind in a fun, relaxed, and most important, interactive way with you, the listener. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and let's get the episode started.
I have no desire to fit in, no plans to walk with the crowd. I have my own mind, heart, and soul, and it's taken years to realize how sacred that is. I like silence now, because not everyone who listens can understand the language of my soul.
Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of the Newvision Oldways Podcast. And I am so happy that you are listening today because this episode is not only a personal one for me, but I know this will hit home for a lot of you as well and on various levels. In the last episode, I discussed the issue of the power that is hidden behind the facade of the media, social media, and any other form of mind control that is wielded by people or by groups that you will never meet using the computer, the phone, the TV, or any device as their shield from retribution. I talked about what we could do to guard against that and take the control of our minds back in this episode. And this is something that has affected my life at times in very big ways. And that is the power that routines and systems have over us and how, if we let them, will dictate almost every aspect of our waking lives. There is good in routines and systems, but there is a dark side that has the power to control us. It controls our way of life. It can control our beliefs, our happiness, and our sanity. I want to show you how that we can manage to rise above these stifling power grabbers and give the power over our lives back to who it belongs to, us. You may be asking how, and I will tell you shortly. So let's get right into episode 38, Power and the Invisible Cage of Routines and Systems.
Marcus Aurelius attacks the dawn. He gets up, he gets after it, as I think most productive, successful people do. You start the day with a conscious choice, a choice to do the thing that isn't easy, but starts the day off right. And we can imagine he is doing some of his meditative work, his study of philosophy, his writing, his journaling there in the morning before he was besieged by inquiries, people who wanted favors, before the bad news had been delivered, before he had to get up and travel, before the battle begun. He was carving out a little time for stillness and reflection. What he's not doing is the equivalent of what so many of us do in the morning, which is we go straight to this thing. Before our feet hit the floor, we're sucked into the phone, we're sucked into the to-do list. We're not cultivating that stoic state of ataraxia, of freedom from disturbance. We're not being reflective. We're not being intentional. We're just putting out fires from the minute we wake up. And it's very clear that Marcus Aurelius is using this little bit of time in the morning to be in a meditative, philosophical, intentional state.
That was author Ryan Holiday. And he's talking about, of course, one of our faves here at Newvision Oldways, Marcus Aurelius, and how he set the tone for his day. He ran an empire. He was the most powerful man in the world, and yet he was able to carve out time for himself, reflect, plan the day his way, and execute his plan with adjustments along the way. So let's begin with a question. And it may not sound like a big question, but it really is. So here goes. When was the last time you questioned your daily routines? Sounds a bit like a mundane question, right? But think about your day. It may be a little bit different than this, but in general, a typical day for most people can go like this. We wake up, look at our phones, scroll through Facebook or the news or both, realize you better get going. So we shower, grab a quick bite to eat, hop in the car, wait in line at our favorite coffee shop, go to work, watch the clock all day while sneaking looks at your phone, clock out, hit the road, go home, eat, watch TV, go to bed, rinse and repeat. Sound vaguely familiar? Routines are powerful. They can give us structure, predictability, and efficiency, but they also have a darker, almost a shadow in the alley side to them as well. They can become invisible cages, subtle systems that shape our behavior, our thoughts, and even our sense of self. We can often think of power as something external, like governments, corporations, authority figures. But if we really think about it, the power that affects us most of our time here on earth is a power that we have been able to be conditioned to believe, unquestioned. And it's the power of routines that we feel we must follow in order to survive. Routines are often praised as the scaffolding of success. They bring order to chaos, predictability to uncertainty. But what happens when that scaffolding becomes a cage? When the very structure that once supported us begins to confine us? This is the invisible power that routines have over us. It doesn't demand obedience, it assumes it. It doesn't punish rebellion, it makes rebellion feel inconvenient. And that's where the danger lies. But routines don't exist in a vacuum. They are nested within a larger framework, systems that shape not just our days, but our destinies. Beyond the morning rituals and daily habits lies a vast architecture of systems, whether they're economic, educational, technological, cultural. These systems are often presented as neutral, objective, even well-intended. But they are many times anything but that. Every system is a story someone once told and then encoded into rules, policies, algorithms, and expectations. The 9-to-5 workday? Born in factories of the Industrial Revolution. Standardized testing? A relic of militarized efficiency. Social media algorithms? Designed not for truth, but for engagement, often at the cost of reduced critical thinking, empathy, and mental health. These systems reward conformity. They penalize deviation, and over time, they begin to shape not just what we do, but who we believe we are. Overall mental health is at an all-time low. Collectively, we are weaker than we have ever been. The human condition is in the emergency room, and it ain't looking good. There is a great quote from Erich Fromm, a German social psychologist, and it really puts this into focus for us. Here it is. He said, "Man is the only animal who does not feel at home in nature, who could feel evicted from paradise. The only animal for whom his own existence is a problem he has to solve, and from which he cannot escape." Powerful statement. Hits home for me in a big way. And in many parts of my life, I have faced times that I have felt that all I was doing was solving problems, whether mine or someone else's. My mother developed cancer when I was 16, passed away when I was 19. My father became paralyzed when I was 22. I took care of him by myself for 8 years until he passed away. I was married with 3 kids for many years. Like a lot of people, it was occasionally a struggle to make it through a day, a week, a month, a year. Routines, systems were all I knew. I am a firm believer that we are put in places for a reason, a purpose that is maybe not fully understood, but we know it's the right thing to do in our hearts. And I'm okay with that. I don't regret anything, except I do regret letting myself do what many of us do. I lost myself in the mix. The routines, the systems were everything. And me, well, I always figured I would get to that later. Later became much later. Much later became, well, you get where I'm going with this. Luckily, eventually, I did find myself to a certain extent, and this podcast is a big part of that discovery that I'm still working through today. But what a lot of wasted time in between. You may have your own version of what happened to me. And if we are not careful, these innocent-looking routines and systems will suck us in for life. We are tricked into staying willingly. We may actually find ourselves defending these systems. Why? Because they offer something deeply seductive. There is a strange safety in repetition. Routines soothe us. Systems give us a map in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. They can offer a sense of control, a promise of stability, but comfort can be a double-edged sword. I mentioned Erich Fromm earlier, and he once wrote about the escape from freedom, how we sometimes choose the familiar over free because freedom is frightening. It demands responsibility. It invites uncertainty. So we stay in the loop. We follow the script. We trade possibility for predictability, and slowly the edges of our imagination begin to dull. Now, right here, let's take a step back and admit a vital key point. We do need systems and routines. They help us survive. They help us build, eat, travel, work. But here is where it could go off the rails. When all of these systems and routines go unquestioned, they begin to own us, to control us. Power is not always a tyrant in the tower. Sometimes it's the voice in your head that says, this is just how things are. And voila, we now have depression, anxiety, anxiousness, and then we take drugs for these issues that have side effects worse than the illness they claim to fix. Sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it?
There's no future, there's no past, there's only the infinite present moment. That's why it's called a present. We're given a present, but we spend little time in the present. We spend a lot of time in the past, a lot of time in the future, over which we have no control, and we miss the obvious, the present. And that's why you must become conscious of the present.
Here's the truth. Systems can be redesigned. Routines can be rewritten. And power, and I mean the real power, begins with our awareness and our willingness to reevaluate everything we do. But as Reinhard Stanjek just mentioned in that last clip, we need to be present in the now to be fully in control. Once we are fully present in the moment, we can then ask the real question: are we living, or are we just operating in a pre-designed system? Routines feel like safety, like we have control, and in some ways it's true, but routines become dangerous when they turn into and operate on autopilot. When we stop asking, why am I doing this? Is this feeding me, or is it draining me? Many of us follow a path not because we chose it, but because it was there. And like in my own experience, it takes something powerful, a life-changing event, a breakdown, a loss, or a radical awakening to break the cycle. But the golden egg to be found here is we don't have to wait until we have one of those life-changing events to break this cycle. Remember, there is a big difference between a routine that we create intentionally and a system that controls us silently. Ask yourself, does this routine reflect who I am becoming? Is the structure supporting my growth or keeping me small? Who profits from me staying on autopilot? True power is choosing your rhythm. You can look at just slowing down as an act of rebellion. Temporary stillness is a strategy. Reflection is resistance. You are not a machine. You are not your job title. You are not here just to optimize productivity. You are here to live, to feel, to grow. The system will keep spinning, but you don't have to get caught in its gears. Step off the treadmill and ask yourself, what does freedom feel like today? Again, are we living or just operating? And I want to be clear on this point. It's not about abandoning all structure. Structures can be sacred if they are intentional. The key is to have a conscious routine, like a morning ritual that nourishes you, a slow meal with no screens, a walk without purpose other than for joy. They sound so simple, but in today's world, they are almost luxuries, and at the same time, they are acts of rebellion in a world that profits from your exhaustion. You can't control the system, but you can decide how much of your soul you hand over to it. So in my view, it's not about burning it all down. It's about lighting one small flame in your day that reminds you, I am not a machine. I am here to live in rhythm with my truth. The ability to live your truth, to have real freedom, is not the absence of structure, routines, and systems. It's the power of knowing that we are the architects of our own. But don't confuse doing things with being alive. It's like mistaking the blueprint for the building or the recipe for the meal, the routine for life itself. As I talked about earlier in this episode, many times in my own life, I have been guilty of allowing myself to completely give in to a routine, a system, a structure that I did not intentionally create, and it completely tore away my sense of self. That does not have to happen. You could be faced with a difficult situation, but it's how you look at the little things daily that could make all the difference in the world. But to do this, you have to have a sense of clarity, awareness that will allow you to see what can be changed for the better to fit your own existence. Running away or burning it all down is not necessary most of the time. It's realizing that you and your soul matters too. What if we stopped thinking about routines as just rules to follow and started thinking of them as rituals that evolve? You could be running version 10.0 of you, but it may be running on a version 3.0 system that was built during a different season in your life. Maybe that routine was right for survival at the time, but now you are trying to thrive. You cannot use old blueprints to build a new home. So why are you still following a system that doesn't fit your current soul? You can, with clarity, devise rituals that have room to breathe, with space for curiosity, creativity, and grace. Rituals that are in alignment with who you are now. Remember, your systems can be redesigned, routines can be rewritten, and that's where the power really is. It's in your hands. It's in your heart and soul. But you have to put the effort into finding the real you. As I have said many times since I started this entire podcast, get in touch with your inner self. It's worth the journey. It's worth the effort because, take it from me, time's a-wasting. Life is to be lived, not dreaded, not filled with anxiety and depression. Routines and systems, left unchecked, can be a driving force for the dark side of life. But if we take a firm grip of the reins, we could turn the routines and systems into tools that make our lives better, not the cage that they can be if we let them run rampant over our very existence. It may sound like I'm harping on this, but give yourself a break. A break from the phone scrolls, the streaming services, regular TV, from going along with the crowd, and just stop. Look at what's inside of you. Are you living for your own dreams, or are you living for someone else's manipulation of who you are? That could be a tough truth to come to terms with. And there are maybe some tough decisions to be made because you dare to take that look. But what if you don't? What if you just give in to the idea that it all is just what it is, and you never carved out that life you really wanted? Is it worth squashing your dreams and desires? And for what? Again, these are tough things to come to terms with, but they are necessary if you want to move forward in life. Who you are now may look a lot different than who you were 5, 10, 15 years ago. Stop living for that long gone version of you and start living for the person you are now. The power is you controlling your new vision using the old ways. Go back to a various episode that it is in the back catalog of this podcast and find a process, a concept that works for you, or put a few together. A concept like mindfulness that allows you to get in touch with your inner self and start manipulating your systems and routines and make them fit the 10.0 version of you, not that old 3.0 version you were a long time ago. Get in alignment with your energy, what motivates you. Get out of your comfort zone and live with purpose. Remember to make it your purpose, not someone else's. Let's make that new vision of yourself one that begins to happen today, not tomorrow, not a week from now when things slow down, because you know what? They probably won't. Not next year, now. Start with small changes, like a morning routine that adapts with your energy, not against it. Daily or weekly check-ins, not with your calendar, but with your soul. Have goals that flex as your clarity deepens. And most of all, remind yourself that you are worth the effort. You are worth the uncomfortable times you may go through, but on the other side is a better you. Please don't follow a formula that was not for you. Life doesn't care about formulas. It changes, it interrupts, it reroutes. There will always be a glitch in the system that will try to throw you off your path and onto a pre-designed path. But with a strong and clear mind, you will avoid that detour and stay on the course that you set for your life. Not everyone will understand it. You may have people that drop out of your life because you are progressing and they are not. You could pull them along for a short period, because if you continue to try and bring your old world with you, you could easily be again living for their fears and anxiety, not living your best life. If they want to come on that journey with you, they will be there, even if it's only to support you. But they have to make that choice, just like you did. I know that much of this can be easier said than done. Change can be difficult, but Chip Conley wrote a book called Emotional Equations. Conley breaks down anxiety into a simple mathematical equation. Anxiety equals uncertainty times powerlessness. Your anxiety about changing your systems and routines can be reduced greatly or even eliminated when you realize that you are not powerless. In fact, you have all the power. It's your decision to move forward and break the monotony of your current systems and transform them into a carefully crafted routines that can give you the life you always wanted. Napoleon Hill once said, "There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge." If you dwell on what you think your limitations are, then those limitations will certainly exist, and they will, of course, limit what you can do in life. If you believe in yourself, regardless of how much external support you have, the possibilities are endless. Once again, I'll refer back to myself. After my mother passed away, after a lot of hard work, making up classes, and finally getting into a 4-year college, my father, before he became paralyzed, was walking me into the dorm with some stuff, and he turned to me and said, "You'll never make it here. You're too spoiled and selfish to live with other people like this." Now, that may sound pretty mean to you, but my dad was a tough workaholic man. Book learning was not his thing, nor was he able to grasp the college world in any way at all. But those words from him lit a fire in me, and I not only succeeded in that college, it was the best book learning I ever got. A major and a minor with no shitty electives, as I like to call them, Dean's List for the first time, and nothing was going to stop me from succeeding. Was it all my dad's comments that did it? No, but man, did he fan the flames on that one. The point of this is simple. Someone else's vision for your life is probably not yours. I loved my dad. We went through a lot together, but not even his bleak outlook for me was going to be my reality. It all comes back to where the power really is. It's in us. Each of us have unique gifts that are there for us to give to the world. But many times, those unique gifts are pushed so far down that we forget that they are even there. And that's a shame because they were given to you for a reason. You may not always know what that reason is, and maybe it's not that important that we do know. But those gifts we each have are there for us to utilize. Don't let the noise of the world make you feel that you are less than, and those gifts you have are not that important. Dig down into your soul, find and acknowledge what gifts you have, and bring them to the surface. Give them to the world. No matter how small you think they are, they could be huge to someone else. A phrase from the book, Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Wynn, reads like this. You will know that you have created a goal from inspiration when it makes you feel expansive, aligned, and fulfilled, and full of love. It will feel like you are feeding your soul instead of selling it. People often talk about what is the meaning of life, and I believe it's right there. To live a life that is feeding your soul, not letting anyone else be in control over your mind, and realizing that the power really is in you. So, what did you think of this episode or any of the episodes? I would love to find out. And here's where to get a hold of the show and let us know. These are in the show notes, but as always, here they are. As I announced in the last few episodes, the new NewvisionOldways.com website is up and running. Check out all the episodes, the Revelations blog and news page, and there's a subscription link as well as a link that you could click on that will allow you to donate to the show and show your support. By donating what you can, it will allow me to book guests and cover costs. Anything will help. Cancel anytime. You can also message the show from each episode on your various platforms. Just look for the send us a text message link. If that doesn't work for you, you can email us at newvisionoldways@gmail.com. You can find us on what was Twitter, now X, at NewvisionOldWay. Remember, there's no S on that one, at Newvision Oldway. Check out the Newvision Oldways YouTube channel. Type in Newvision, one word, Old Ways, one word, and please subscribe. It is free. It will show support for the show. It really means a lot and will help grow the show on YouTube as well. And as a reminder, these are all growing platforms for us and expanding all the time. So we need your help to get the flow going with the community. And last but not least, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to us, like us, follow us, leave a review on whatever platform you found us on, that would be so appreciated. That will also help secure guests that we will be booking in the future. So welcome to the second half of season 4. I still have a lot to cover this season, so thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to get your input. I also cannot wait until we get together for the next episode of Newvision Old Ways. And until then, stay true to yourself, stay informed, and stay empowered.
But the most important thing is,
This episode and all the episodes of Newvision Oldways Podcast have been written, engineered, and produced by Tony Marinaccio and TKM Productions.